Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. Thank you ever so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify and Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And this is what happens when Tottenham are out of all cups. We are still here, believe it or not. I know. Look at the faces, already such disappointment, such gloom. But don't worry, we've got a crucial game to come, of course, at the weekend. Delighted to be joined by three returning guests to The Last Word on Spurs. Firstly, delighted to have him back alongside me. I've got the brilliant Jason McGovern with me. Jace, thank you so much. It's been very short notice, this one, so thank you for coming on.
Get on with it. The cricket's on.
And I will say you've got the dulcet tones of Jason joining us straight after Man United as well. So I'll tell you, that'll be an interesting mood depending on that result, I tell you. Joining Jason tonight, delighted to be welcoming also two of our returning favourite guests on The Last Word on Spurs. First up, listen, you must hear his dulcet tones over at, of course, the Dr. Tottenham podcast. We've got the wonderful Vass Koni back with us. Vass, how are you?
I'm all good, thanks, Ricky. Pleasure to be back on with you again.
Oh, pleasure is all ours, Vass. Thank you so much as always for giving up your time. And also delighted to have her back on. It's been a while. I feel like every time she's on, there's always some drama going down at Tottenham. And this, of course, is no different. We've got the brilliant Anthoulla on from the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. Anthoulla, lovely to have you here. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, my timing's always impeccable.
Picked a quiet week out, didn't you, really?
Yeah, it's really quiet.
The world of Spurs, internal, external, it never stops, right? Never stops.
Nope, never.
So, like I say, lovely to have you here. Guys, as I said, we've got a huge game to come against Manchester United, of course, at the weekend. But it's still been a busy week for Spurs on and off the field. But before we do get into all things Tottenham, of course, I must just say we always recognise that there's obviously greater concerns going on in the world right now. So, of course, our thoughts with everybody in Ukraine at the moment, wishing everybody, hopefully a speedy recovery and peace, hopefully, throughout the world in due course. Now, this subject, of course, is dominating sport in general at the moment, so it will be hard to just ignore it completely. And that is, of course, that there was some news breaking earlier today that Roman Abramovich, obviously the owner of Chelsea, has been sanctioned, meaning that all his assets have been frozen by the UK government, which includes Chelsea Football Club. Of course, it's caused, real sparks across football, sport in general, the nature of it. Let's go to you, Jace, first. I know you did say to me, Rick, it won't be a Chelsea special. It definitely isn't a Chelsea special. But I just want to know your thoughts ultimately on that. And just overall, your thoughts on Roman Abramovich being sanctioned and Chelsea Football Club assets all frozen.
Well, it was certainly a shock this morning. Well, I suppose not a complete shock, and then just trying to absorb what it actually meant. I mean, it's I don't think any football club has ever gone through this, that's for sure. But no sympathy for them. I think the phrase was, if you go to sleep with a dog, don't be surprised if you wake up with fleas. And, the situation is their own. He owns the company that's supplying steel to their tanks. So it's certainly not sanctions that are just going to be lifted like that. We had the shocking reaction of Chelsea fans on Saturday at Burnley. So they've been happy to live off of that money for 20 years, and I don't think anyone's got any sympathy for them now. But the implications of it, I would imagine it will end up not being quite as bad as the doom mongers at the moment. Will probably end up with it being sold off cheap, and somebody getting the football club, and it will still be a growing concern. But they certainly won't be able to operate as they traditionally have done. There'll be no buying Werner for 57 million and thinking that hasn't worked, so we'll spend 100 million on Lukaku without any worries at all. So those types of things will end. But and no doubt they'll be staying in the travel lodge and flying with Ryanair for the next few weeks. And long may it continue, mate. But no sympathies with them at all. But for one or two Chelsea fans who feel hard done by that, it's unfair on the football club. If you don't understand the war, that's one thing. But, Dynamo Kiev and Shakhtar Donetsk aren't exactly enjoying watching their football teams either at the moment. So, I don't see them playing any fixtures, which at least Chelsea can do. And that's the important thing from the football side. But, no sympathy with them whatsoever, mate.
Yeah, and let's come over to you. I mean, even tonight, Chelsea are playing, and we actually saw before the game, still Chelsea chanting Roman Abramovich's name. And I think, to be fair, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, there's been massive question marks over the 55-year-old and his links with Vladimir Putin. Are you in favour of that decision that's been taken by the government today? And can you understand it?
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to happen. I don't think it's obviously an attack on Chelsea Football Club, as the Chelsea fans are kind of saying. It's clear why it's happened without getting too much into the politics of it. But I kind of resonate a lot with what Jace said, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be as bad as they think. I think it's to force sort of a quick sale, and then they'll just get on with it. And they won't operate as they did before, obviously, but it won't be as bad as they think. But yeah, it's obvious why they did it. I think it was bound to happen. So
yeah, I mean, again, coming over to you, Vass, it's obviously it's dominated, obviously world football today. Just the nature of the government's decision. What's your initial thoughts on it for you, Vass? Again, are you in favour of that, or can you understand it from both sides, from Chelsea fans' perspective?
Well, Chelsea are playing the victims, but clearly they knew what they were getting into with Roman Abramovich, and it's been clear for the past nearly 20 years that the money that Abramovich was pumping into the club wasn't sourced from totally legitimate sources. I think every man and his dog knew that. And it was, I suppose, either a question of time of it catching up with him, or one day he was going to pick up his toys and move on. Like Jason, I've got no sympathy for them at all. I'm just a bit gutted that it didn't come a few years earlier. I can understand why the government are doing what they're doing. Whether it will work, I don't know. Chelsea, this is the football club who somehow get out of everything. They won the Champions League final against Bayern Munich at Bayern Munich's home ground. They had a transfer ban that was overturned and they still went out and spent money. They find a way of wriggling out of things. And I suspect what they might end up doing here is there could very well be a sale. And as long as it doesn't benefit Abramovich in any way, maybe that's the loophole they're looking for to get out of it. And then as for whether things will ever be the same for them again, it really does depend who buys them. If it's another billionaire, multi-billionaire from a different source, then who knows? But quite frankly, I'm happy that this has happened to them, and I hope they sanction them so they can give us back that title they stole off us in 2017 and the umpteen Champions League qualifications that we never got because they finished in the top four, etc., etc. Yeah. But yeah, it's I have no sympathy, and I'm loving it at the moment.
I did see a comment saying, "Can someone, sanction those 8 goals they scored against us this season?" That would be quite nice, to be fair. But again, chance of that happening is probably very unlikely. Jez, question on the screen there from Jones. He says, "What do you think this means now for future foreign investment? Would it be risky with all these sanctions? Do you think Spurs' ownership might be the way forward now?" I presume he means in terms of the kind of owners that we've got. You got an opinion on that, Jace, at all?
Well, we've just seen another, shall we say, unhealthy owner buy into a football club with the Saudi investment. So, that's for the Premier League to answer. There's so many dodgy people that want to get into it, and Joe Lewis's money isn't exactly, well, it's what do you call dirty money? There's a man that made a lot of money out of Black Monday and things, or Black Wednesday rather. So I don't know how the Premier League will handle. There should be a lot tighter, stricter controls on who can own Premier League clubs. The problem will be that plays almost into the hands of those that have them. If you stop wealthy owners coming in, it just actually makes the Newcastle situation and those that have got those wealthy owners even more comfortable then, doesn't it? And Manchester City with creating false sponsorships and things like that. So, the Premier League has got to have a really serious look at how they do allow football clubs to be owned. That German model of, what is it, more or less, I think all German clubs are 49% fan owned or something, aren't they? And I don't know how you can possibly bring that in now, but certainly the ownership of football clubs is something that has to be considered, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just Conte was asked about this today in his pre-match press conference. He said, honestly, I've just listened to the situation. This morning we had a training session. It's not easy. Honestly, it's a pity because I was also a coach in this club, Chelsea. So I enjoyed 2 seasons there. I also won 2 titles. I worked in this club. It's a pity to listen to the situation. It's not all simple for the players. It's not simple for Thomas Tuchel, for the fans, for the whole environment, for Chelsea's environment. And he also went on to say that for him, it's not right. I hope for the best for this club because I worked in this club. I love the team, the club that I worked in the past. Every team that worked in the past, I loved. I hope the best for them. I know a couple of people, Jace, very quickly picked up on that. Weren't too happy with Conte's comments. I mean, are they reading too much into those? Was there a need for Conte to comment, do you think?
Well, Conte's one of those that he gets asked the question, doesn't he? And he gives it a full answer. I mean, there's a lot of things Conte shouldn't answer. But he's, we've said before, haven't we, off air, how often that Tottenham's press secretary should shut a lot of these questions down before they're even before he even has a chance to answer. But no, not really. I didn't have a problem. I don't think he's, Antonio Conte will want to beat Chelsea when he's at Tottenham, and he will want to finish above Chelsea whilst he's at Tottenham, and that's all that matters. Whether he's said he loves them and he has anything, I mean, we see players that don't celebrate goals against old clubs, don't we? Because they have a respect for them and things like that. And English, don't forget, isn't his first language. So even though he does speak good enough English, so no, I'm not sitting here getting wound up over what Conte's exact words were. I mean, it's a club that he served for a couple of years. He was successful at and won titles at. So of course he's going to respect the football club, and I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, well, listen, we'll move on. Like I say, it's a sensitive subject. It's one obviously we'll keep an eye on. But let's talk about, let's talk about better things. We'll talk about Spurs' recent form, if you think that is better. I mean, off air, and you described it as bipolar, so it's only right to come to you first to get your thoughts on it. Because, listen, following a really disappointing result for Spurs only a week or so ago against Middlesbrough, losing extra time there, Spurs were back to winning ways, of course, on Monday night. A big 5-0 win against Everton. Again, depending on what you think of Everton as an opponent, Spurs now find themselves 7th in the table at 45 points they've accumulated at this time of recording. We're currently 3 points behind Arsenal, a position 4th at the moment with a game in hand on Tottenham. What have you made, Anth, of Spurs' recent form? Is there a word for it apart from bipolar?
I was going to say, is there form? It's up and down, isn't it? It's literally like 1 minute rubbish, next minute winning. I don't know what's going on. I mean, Everton were very poor. They were. I don't think I've seen a team play that badly in a long time. I think that was really, really bad. They were poor. But then equally, we should have beat Middlesbrough. We had enough there to beat Middlesbrough. So, I mean, I didn't watch the game. I was at work, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, actually, I was at work, not unfortunately. So I didn't watch. But, I obviously heard and watched the highlights and things like that. So, yeah, we should have beaten them. We had enough there to beat them. So I think it's very up and down, and I don't really know what's going on. I don't know why we can't find a form. I don't think we don't have form at the moment. It's literally just up, down, up, down.
Very erratic at the moment.
So erratic. And even like performances of like individual players, 1 minute they're good, 1 minute they're bad. Like Sessegnon had a good game against Leeds and then had a really poor game against Middlesbrough. It's just all up and down, and I'm very confused. I don't know what everyone else here thinks. I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah, it's so strange. When Keith on the screen there says Everton only just lost to Man City. I mean, Vass, it depends what camp you're in, isn't it? Because, I mean, we've had a 9-0 aggregate win over, of course, Leeds and Everton. And many will look at Leeds and Everton and think, the nature of these teams, they probably are really well suited to the way Spurs want to play. So I don't know whether you can read too much into it because, of course, listen, the Middlesbrough game, it's a game you'd expect with Spurs' quality. They should win. However, looking at Middlesbrough's form under Chris Wilder, you could maybe argue they're, a top-end championship side. You'd maybe argue they're better than the likes of Norwich in the Premier League at the moment, to be fair. So, I mean, where do you stand at the moment, Vass, in terms of Spurs' form and over this course of the last couple of months?
Well, obviously, the home games against Wolves and Southampton proved really costly because they were 2 winnable games, and the Southampton one, we sort of took the lead in that one, didn't we? And there was a break in play. We lost our momentum, lost 2 silly goals towards the end. The Wolves game, we gave away 2 silly goals. But if you're looking at just the league form, then we've won 3 of the last 4. Okay, so that's sort of hinting at some form. But then you throw the Middlesbrough game in there, and we've got this kind of roller coaster, kind of wavy line of ups and downs. So yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know. I think Spurs have always had this affliction where when they've gone into games that they're expected to win, for some reason we make life difficult, or we don't quite get over the hump. And maybe, I don't know whether that's just complacency or it's a mental thing. Because if you think about it, we went and had this fantastic result away at Man City. And then on the Wednesday, all our Spurs fans were worried because we were playing 19th place Burnley and felt like, you know, we weren't going to follow up the City result with another positive result. And that's how it ended up being. Okay, the weather was atrocious and losing Bentancur at half-time probably affected us too. But then we beat Leeds 4-0, go to Middlesbrough. And again, we weren't on it. We were just, it was we had the chances in the end to win the game, I think. But whether we deserved it or not, probably not. And we got dumped out of it. So, listen, we've had a decent run in the league of late. Saturday's going to be huge. We'll talk about that later. I know that's coming up, but we've got a clear run at that fourth spot now, and that's what we've got to focus on.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, Jay, to come over to you, the way that Conte has almost changed his strategic comments over the course of the last few weeks. I mean, in a way, he's been playing it. I almost feel that he's almost distanced himself from the plight of what's going on about Spurs, saying, comments like, he deserves to be at a club that's challenging for trophies, almost like he's forgotten that this is the club he's currently managing, and he's been obviously responsible for this group over the course of the last few months. So then, of course, on Monday evening, we've seen a bit of a change in tact where he now is saying that, we've got 12 games left to play, and, we need to take responsibility because we can, attempt and achieve to finish in the top four. Have you been surprised by Conte's comments over the course of the last few weeks?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because he talks about us being up and down, but he's more up and down than anyone. He's cloud nine and, we're definitely fighting for fourth, and then you lose a game and he's the opposite. And then his other thing is he constantly pleads for patience, and yet as soon as we lose, he shows no patience at all. So, he needs to sort himself out emotionally. But I've kind of stopped really watching the press conferences and listening to what he says, because I just think that there's so many contradictions from one to the other, and within games and results as well. So I don't pay too much attention to them now.
He's a bit emotional, isn't he?
I mean,
absolutely.
Yes, we're inconsistent, but as I've said, as I've pointed out, in the year 2022, we didn't beat Southampton at home. We didn't beat Wolves at home. We didn't win at Burnley. We got dumped by Middlesbrough. But Manchester United didn't beat Southampton at home, didn't beat Wolves at home, got dumped by Middlesbrough and didn't win at Burnley. And yet, nobody says it's manky. It's just the same as Spursy. PSG get beat last night. Is that PSG? And yet constantly the media say that's Spursy. It's Tottenham's fault that PSG got knocked out, forgetting that Luka Modric is the man that instigated them getting knocked out, who came from Spurs. So, we are inconsistent, but the whole nature of that league from fourth downwards is inconsistent. Because in Tottenham, if their most infuriating inconsistent season are still only a couple of points off of fourth, it suggests that the teams fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, ninth and below have also been inconsistent, doesn't it? They've all lost games that they should have won. Arsenal got dumped by Forest. They've had some stupid results. They didn't beat Burnley at home.
No.
So, there's, and I think Arsenal's only away wins are at the bottom four clubs.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I think win, haven't they? They won at Leicester, and
you're right.
They've only beaten bottom four clubs. Yeah. And they've got a lot of difficult fixtures to come. So don't get too, it's infuriating that we're inconsistent, but don't give up hope, because it's a year when somebody that will finish fourth will be an inconsistent, poor side. And there's no reason at the moment why it can't be us.
No, it's so bizarre, isn't it, really? I mean, Anth, coming around to you, just in terms of Conte and the way he does interact with the media, what's your thoughts? I mean, because again, he does seem to change a lot. I mean, Vass said he's quite emotional, and I could see you nodding there as well. Are you still full on the Conte train at the moment?
Yeah, I'm
or
on the
have
Conte train. I've stopped watching the press conferences. I don't think they're very helpful for some people, to be honest. I think he does need to kind of calm it, but at the same time, he's Italian, he's emotional, he's very he's expressing his feelings, and he's very, very honest. Because actually, if you break down what he says, do you disagree? I don't think I do. And like some people have been saying in the chat, he's like Spurs. He's like what Spurs fans are. We're like that. 1 minute we're like, oh, we're great. Next minute, oh, we're rubbish. He's literally saying what we're thinking. Whether that's a good thing as a manager or as the manager is not, I don't think it is probably a good thing to be saying. Because what does it look like to your team, to the players that you're managing, and is it actually motivating him? Is it doing the job? I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. In terms of what he's actually saying, I don't really disagree with his comments, if I'm honest. So, you know, I've just kind of stopped watching them just because, I mean, I don't really have time, number one, and number two, I think it would just make me even more bipolar with it. So no.
It's the Mediterranean blood, then. If you know,
it really is, isn't
it? Yeah, we can all relate.
We can all relate to that one. Yeah,
we can all relate to that in one way or another. I can tell you that for sure. Vass, I mean, you said it there for you. Your word was emotional there to sum him up. I mean, are you the same as Anth and Jason? I mean, do you pay massive attention now to what's being said in the pre or post match conferences, or do you judge the actual product on the pitch?
No, I don't pay too much attention to the post match stuff. He does need to tone it down somewhat, and I've said as much on our podcast as well. I think he gets too emotional too quickly, and I think Antonio Conte, you're going to get a better press conference from him if you've let him sort of calm down and digest what's happened first. Because if you're hitting him straight after a game and it's been a bad performance, you know, unlike Jose would be quite calculated in what he said post game.
Yeah.
Whereas Conte just sort of shoots from the hip, and you know he's got to lead this club really. And as Jay said earlier, he was talking about, you know, moaning about the form being up and down, and yet we've got Conte who's up and down with the stuff that he's saying. And obviously the media are looking for headlines, aren't they? They just pick the bits that they like, and fans pick the bits that fit their particular agenda, and it just goes round and round. But yeah, I don't listen to too much of that post-match stuff. I'm just looking to see what's happening on the pitch. And for me, since the two lads joined from Juve in January, and when they've played and both been in the team, I think we've looked better. Yep. We're starting to develop a bit of a style. As I said, we've won 3 out of the last 4 league games. And yeah, it's just hopefully something that's going to continue going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you just said there is obviously what he's actually agreed upon as well. I mean, he said in January, 2 players made us more complete, obviously referring to Kulusevski and Bentancur. He said, I think that we can fight for this target now of the Champions League. It's important to have this ambition. It's not right to hide our ambition, and okay, we'll see what happens. It is a bit strange because, again, I mean, if you look at what he said 3 or 4 weeks ago, he said Spurs, in terms of competing, based on their form, they couldn't even think about the Champions League. So a bit of a change in tack there from Conte. You would imagine now, because we are out of all the competitions cup-wise, he's got to give those players some form of a target, because I don't know what you feel, Vass, for you. I mean, again, there's real uncertainty at the moment as to whether he's even going to be here next season. I mean, how do you feel about that? Because I will say under Pochettino, I mean, again, towards the end, we know what happened with Poch, but in the prime Poch years, you felt the club had a long-term vision. You knew where they were going. You knew what they were planning, whether it was the stadium, the training ground. There was a clear identity as to what's happening. Whereas at the moment with Spurs, everything feels a little bit short-termism. Do you see where I'm coming from?
No, I think the thing that's fueling that is the length of Conte's contract. That is the only thing that is fueling that. You know, he's signed for 18 months, and apparently we've got an option for an additional year. Okay. Personally, I have famous last words, but I have no qualms that he won't be here next season. I think he will be here next season, and I think the club will back him in the summer. That's got to be part of the agenda. Daniel Levy may be many things, but he's not stupid. Okay, he's pushed the boat out to get this guy in. All right, and he's not just going to let him walk off. So I think he will be here next year. And don't forget, when he took Juve over, Juve were 7th that season. And he sort of guided them through, and in the following season, he won the league with them. I'm not saying he's going to do that with us, but I think things are moving. I don't think there's this short-termism. I think under Pochettino it was different. The expectation bar was a lot lower.
Yep.
And Poch overachieved and did so many good things, and a side came together that we all kind of fell in love with. And then, yes, we could see the plan because we knew the stadium was coming, and we had a couple of unfortunate years at Wembley before coming back again, etc. But this is different now. There's a little bit more immediacy to our plan. I'm not saying we're going to have another long-term project like we did under Poch, but certainly for the next couple of seasons, I think we'll back Conte, and I think at the very least, Rick, what he'll do is, even if he goes in sort of 12, 18 months or 24 months, at the very least, he will lay some foundations for whoever comes in next. That's my belief anyway.
Interesting. To Richard, we will ask Anth that question very shortly. We've got a topic coming up which Anth will definitely be giving us a bit of feedback on. Jay's coming over to you. I mean, as Vass said there, he's got absolutely Vass has got absolutely no qualms that Conte's going to be here. Do you share that optimism for you?
I have serious doubts, I must admit, because I keep hearing the phrase back him, and we all want him backed. But when he says, I deserve to win titles, when he talks about, I'm here to win, how the hell can Tottenham possibly back him to win in the summer? I mean, how much would it take for Tottenham to jump ahead of Liverpool and Manchester City in the summer? I mean, Jesus. I mean, prime Roman, if you like, when he came into Chelsea, wouldn't be able to back Tottenham enough to win the league next season. And so my fear is if we went out and bought 6 players, six 30 to 40 million pound players, that's not enough to win the league. But that would be a hell of a lot of backing that he'd get. And then as soon as we'd lose a couple, he'd think, well, we're still not going to win the league. And that's my worry with him, because he's so focused on winning. He's not here to compete for a top 4 place. And I think, as much as the club may want to calm him down and say, look, we want to win like you do, but it's impossible to do it in a year. I'm not so sure he's got the temperament to wait around to do a rebuild, if you like. So I do have serious doubts. And then the other problem in the back of my mind then is if Levy, let's say Levy's a normal chairman, not the type of chairman that we all know he is, but even if he was a normal chairman, if you're thinking, I could well go and spend £40 million on 6 players here, spend 200 million, and this bloke walks away and leaves me with 6 players that the new one in doesn't want. So I think there's a hell of a lot. To really back Conte in the summer, you have to have him guarantee that he's going to be there for that year and really stick it out. And he can't then be up and down and thinking, well, they signed me a centre-half, they signed me a midfield player, they signed me a backup striker, but they never signed me another right-back. We will not be able to buy 16, 17 players to fully back him in the summer. So that's my worry in my mind for him. I think they will try to back him, but how much they can actually go to, particularly if they're not in that Champions League spot. You won't get 6 or 7 40, 50 million pound players wanting to come to Tottenham if you're not in the Champions League. So even if you wanted to back him, it's going to be damn hard to. So that's my worry with him. And as I say, everything he says is about winning, not just trying to win or competing to win. He wants to win.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ricky.
Go on, Vass.
I disagree with a lot of that, and I'll tell you why. The one thing I do agree with is the Champions League thing. That might have a massive role to play. So finishing 4th for Spurs this season is important. And I don't understand why Spurs fans think backing the manager means you have to buy 16, 17 players or spend like £300 million. We've seen Man United these past 2 seasons spend more money than anybody, and it hasn't done anything. Okay, you need structure in your play. Now, what Spurs need is a decent enough squad to become more consistent. Okay, for large parts of this early Conte tenure, we didn't have. He came halfway through, so he's got to implement his style. That's taken time. We've had Romero out for a while. We haven't been able to play Dyer. We've had Bentancur come with injuries. So just recently, we've started to see our preferred 11 play together on a more consistent basis, and we've had some positive results. So what do you need to back this guy? Hugo signed a new contract. He hasn't got to worry about his goalkeeper for now anyway. So what we're looking at, 3, 4, 5 pieces, tops, just to make us a little bit more competitive and consistent. And they don't all have to be £100 million players, do they really?
No, don't get me wrong. It hasn't got to be £100 million players, but you've got to build a squad. So it's all right to say, well, we were missing Bentancur and we were missing Romero, but what happens if they get injured again? You know, you can't be bringing in Winks and players like that. So it's, as well as having a Bentancur, you've got to go and get a second Bentancur, because you can't just risk Winks playing for the next 3 months and things like that. And what I mean is, Vass, you know, the summer money doesn't matter so much, but to build a squad that can beat Liverpool or beat Manchester City to the league, you're not going to do that on the cheap. You're not going to do it. So you can go and buy your James Ward-Prowse. You can go and buy... You will need to buy... And I mean, Christian Romero, straight away, there's 43 million in the summer gone. There's the first 43 million we got to spend in the summer. And we're talking about getting another centre half of Romero's quality and that. So the total sums, you know, you're going to need.
Well, I think once you add Kulusevski's fee and obviously Bentancur's fees as well.
You know, people talk about Lamptey, for instance, and let's say Conte wants Lamptey. All right, we'll just use that as a name. And this is what I mean. You go and buy Lamptey, but Lamptey's injury prone. So you spend 50 million on Lamptey, but you still need to then go and buy a second one, because when he gets injured for half the season, you can't be bringing in Emerson Royal or Doherty. And this is part of the problem that you've got, to have a squad that can beat Manchester City or Liverpool. I mean, you know, Liverpool leave out Mane, they can bring in Jota. They leave out Salah, they can bring in Louise. They leave out Firmino, they bring somebody else in. There's a much they can leave out Naby Keita and Thiago plays. Yeah, we're nowhere near that, and so their backup players are better than so many of our first choice players, and that's the problem that I think of building a squad. Why you're going to need, I think you're going to need at least a dozen players to come into that squad, because the whole backups are not good enough.
You mean you think 12 across the summer, Jace?
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, let's be honest. Vass says we sort the goalkeeper role. And, you know, I've always been a big Hugo fan. But Hugo isn't playing the way that Conte wants a goalkeeper. And if, you know, we also need to think about, if there's an injury to Hugo, could we have Galini in goal all season? You know, you're looking at Liverpool, that keeper that comes in for Liverpool looks decent, doesn't he, Keller?
Does. Yeah, it does.
And you know, there are other clubs with good second choice goalkeepers. So all of that has got to be done to make us competitive to win a league. That's tough to do in one window.
Before we go to Vass, do you want to come back on that quickly? I mean, obviously, you obviously share you obviously have some optimism that, you know, we're not 10, 12 players away at the moment.
No, I don't think we are 10 or 12 players away. Listen, our goal right now is to become more consistent. For sure, we know what the gaps are in the squad. We need another centre-back. We need maybe another couple more midfield players. We need a right wing-back and a backup striker. That's 5 players that could, at the very least, make us more competitive. We've got it in us to get results away from home against Man City. You know, we've got it in us to compete at the very least with Liverpool, not for the title, I mean in games, right? So the only team we seem to have a real problem with is Chelsea, and have had for since the days of Kerry Dixon, for goodness sake.
Yep.
But all I'm saying is that I think we need 5 or 6 players to come in, and if we've got that, I think we immediately become a lot more competitive. And given that we are pushing for 4th now with the squad that we've got, another 5 or 6 decent signings suddenly makes us competitive for higher up in the league. And that's all I'm saying, really. I think I don't think it's as bad as we think. I appreciate what Jace is saying about you need to strengthen your backups and your squad as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think for the odd game, I think you've got players who can come in and at least perform. You know,
it's a real fascinating debate because it depends what you feel, and isn't it? What does back Conte mean? Because obviously we none of us know what that back Conte means. Only Conte will know what that means by backing him. And coming over to you, I mean, he was asked today, Conte, at his pre-match press conference, that the aspect of some people thinking that he wasn't the right profile to manage Man United, and he said, why do people doubt him? And he said, honestly, I think that's when United decided to sack Solskjaer. I signed for Tottenham. I enjoyed to do this. I found this situation very good for me to work in a modern club, fantastic stadium and training ground with a big task to try and build something important, to build something competitive for the future. And I signed for Tottenham because honestly, I was very focused. And I was so focused on the Tottenham job. The present is Tottenham for me. I'm enjoying a lot to work with this club, with these players. We are trying to improve, to raise our level. This is my target. I repeat, I'm enjoying doing it. Very quickly, for you on that topic. It's hard because you feel with Conte, there's an ambition there for him that he wants to win the league. It's not just the top four. Do you feel Spurs can give him the adequate tools this summer to compete in the way he wants to for next season?
So it was a very interesting exchange actually between Jason and Vass, because I actually, no offense Vass, but I kind of lean more toward the way what Jason's thinking, just because and as you know, because when I was last on the pod, I said it as well, that I have serious reservations on if Levy is going to back him in the summer. And what I mean by back him is giving him the players he wants, not X amount of players, but the players that Conte wants. And I think someone said it earlier, because I was reading the chat as you guys were speaking. Someone said it. Levy, our club likes to buy young players that might be a prospect in the future, make some profit. Conte probably wants ready-made players. And are the agendas going to align? Is there going to be that in the summer where Conte actually gets what he wants to compete? I don't know. I'm very cynical with it. I've not seen it yet where we give a manager exactly what they want for the beginning of a season. I'm really happy with Bentancur and Kulu. I'm really, really happy with them. I think they're really showing great promise, and exactly what Vass said, as soon as they came into the squad, you could just see that we've improved already. So I'm really happy with that. It's given me a little bit of hope, but I'm going to hold off until the summer and see what happens. I do worry that he might not be here. I am concerned that he might not be here next summer, next season, if he isn't backed. And he's not the kind of person that wouldn't walk away. I think he'd perfectly be happy to just get up and walk away if he's not happy. So I'm just kind of on the fence with it, but I'm leaning more towards Jace than Vass. Sorry, Vass, but you're very optimistic.
Do you know what, Vass? I share. I mean, hopefully some optimism that, based on those comments from today, when he talks about building something for the future. I mean, if he's feeling like that, Vass, then he surely has to be leaning towards more what you're saying in terms of that he's willing to work.
It doesn't you can't build something if you're going to bugger off in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, and again, building again doesn't. To me, I can't really relate that to them buying 12 to 13 players. Spurs have never done that, and I can't imagine they will do that this summer. Can you, Vass? I mean, honestly,
the only thing, just to come back on what Anthoulla says about Levy being Levy, the only thing that is slightly different for me this time around is twofold. Number one, the club haven't really got anywhere else to spend their money at the moment, right? We've built the stadium, which is what they wanted to do.
Yep.
We've built the training ground. Okay. I know there's some other developments in the pipeline around the White Hart Lane, but nevertheless,
got the cinema.
Yeah. and the golf course is coming as well. You've got the golf course coming.
Yeah. So there's no other outside projects for him to spend the money on. And the second thing is he's never had a Conte before. Conte's in top 5 managers in the world right now. You'd be bloody stupid to appoint somebody like that and think that you can carry on as you were. I think this is last chance for Levy. There was unrest amongst the fans not that long ago. I think if he blows it with Conte, the unrest the noise is going to be deafening for Levy. Yep. He knows where he's at right now, and that's why I have a little bit of hope. I get what Anthoulla and Jace are saying, but that's why.
I think you underestimate the arrogance
Maybe.
that he has.
Maybe
I think you're
do.
underestimating.
Yeah,
I think I can see why you think that, and I would love to be on the train with you on that. I really would. But I think
Okay.
there's just something. I think we haven't seen it yet, and I'm just not convinced. I'm just absolutely not convinced. But we'll see. I hope I'm proven wrong and you're right. So
Well,
we all
I
want
live in
that.
hope. What can I say?
Yeah, I think we all live in hope. No, I think. Go on,
I just want to ask Vass a quick one.
Yeah.
And we'll play hypothetical. Let's say we did finish fourth.
Okay.
And we're in the Champions League. How many players do you think he would then need to compete in the Champions League and still compete in the Premier League?
Yeah, that's a fair point. He would need more.
We're seeing this struggle of him 2 games in a week.
Yeah.
And if you've got Champions League games where you've got to qualify through the group, so Kane's having to play them, Romero's playing them, his top choice wing backs is playing them, and then you've got West Ham away on a Saturday. And you're resting Bentancur and you're resting Kulusevski and that's what I mean. That squad's, so it's almost, we need the Champions League to source it, but then that will then bring a whole host of new problems itself as well.
The funny thing is, though, he's always struggled playing 2 games a week. He's always struggled in Europe as a manager, hasn't he? And when he won the league with Chelsea that year, Jace, when they beat us to the title,
when they had nothing to do.
They had nothing to do. Yeah, exactly. They were playing. He was playing the same team every week, and I think Conte loves that. I think that's he's in his element then when he's only got a few games and a small squad, and he can play the same players week in, week out. So don't be surprised if he gets us knocked out of the Champions League in the group stage just so he can do that.
It is a really interesting debate. And I talk about, we say about Daniel Levy there. The next subject we're going to touch upon, which is the season ticket renewals. I think that does encompass a lot of, how fans are feeling right now about the club. But before we do that, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. Now, some of you may be aware on the last one on Spurs here that we're absolutely delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. So NordVPN, they are, of course, a very well-known now, secure, fast and easy to use VPN. With over 5,200 servers across 59 countries, NordVPN selects the best server based on location loads and your specific needs. You have a great opportunity to save on certain apps like YouTube Premium. Once you have signed to VPN, if you have taken this opportunity, you need to change your location settings to likes of either India or Argentina to really get the best out of that premium. Now, we're going to share a code for you on the screen here that will enable you to obviously get this discount. So essentially you can go to www.nordvpn.com/last word on Spurs. That's LWOS, the code to use to get a huge discount plus 1 month free plus a bonus gift to protect yourself online and gain vast amounts of entertaining content. I must say for me personally, having got this now, you have got the opportunity also to obviously benefit from the likes of US Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, BBC iPlayer, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, and you also get the chance, Jace, to change that location setting for the golf and the cricket.
I was going to say, does it let me watch the cricket when you're on?
It does. So make sure you check that out, of course, there. So I'll say thank you so much as always for that. Right, turn our attention back to what's been a week in which, you can't make fate up, can you? So we had Anthoulla booked in the diary from a couple of months ago. And needless to say, whenever she comes on, I feel like there's always something going on around Tottenham off the field. And this is no different, of course. We had the news coming through this week that Spurs are essentially, to put it politely, opening now the door to renew your season ticket early and moving that deadline forward. Before we come to Anth on the details, Jace, just come over to you firstly on it. Was you surprised by that announcement this week from Spurs that you can now already renew for next season based on everything?
Well, the only thing I think Ant should be able to do a better answer than me, because I'm not a season ticket holder. I've never taken a huge notice of the cut-off date, and so I'm not sure what the cut-off date was last year or the year before or the traditional cut-off date is. I am surprised it's the 29th of April. I mean, how many games have we got after that? what's that? 4 or 5 games still
4 or
to
5
go.
games. There'll be
4
4
or 5 games still
To
to go.
answer
I
your
mean, in my
question-
mind,
Sorry,
I'm thinking. In my mind, I'm sure it would have been at the end of May or something like that. But
Yeah.
To answer your question, Jace, this is the first year they've done it before the end of the season.
before the end of the season, right? So
usually it's after the end of the season.
Is that right, Anth? I always vaguely remember them asking for money sort of May time, even a couple of games before the end of the season or something like that, no?
They start asking early, but the deadline's always been after.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, I must say,
the only other caveat maybe is, when does next season start? Because of that World Cup, does next season start earlier?
Yes, it does.
So there is that caveat that they'll say, okay, well, it still only gives you a 12 weeks between that date and the start of the season or something like that. That logically is their caveat, but it does seem extraordinary early, that's for sure. When you're not sure whether but I suppose your Champions League tickets aren't now included in the season ticket, are they?
No.
So from their point of view, it's straight 19 Premier League games, and you're in the Premier League. So I hope it's good. I hope, the cynical part of me hopes that the date isn't because Conte has an announcement to make after that date.
Well, I think it's the thing, isn't it? I think when you're looking at it from the outside, being quite scrutiny on it, the fact that the club at the moment are in the midst of a season where you don't know if they're going to qualify for Europe, you don't know if the manager's going to be here, you don't know if Harry Kane's going to commit to his future. I mean, that's 3 reasons I've given you, and there's probably 1,000 more. But I mean, Ant will come to you because I must just firstly say that Spurs have decided to freeze their season ticket prices for the 22-23 campaign, and obviously they we have to make that point to begin with. And many people are suggesting they should be lowering the prices. I think we have to understand that COVID and how that's affected the club. I don't think there'll be many clubs across the world that will be lowering their prices. So I mean, I think we have seen Arsenal, of course, they have got a price increase of 4%. That's the first time their costs have gone up since 2014. But Spurs have, let's say, frozen their season ticket price. And obviously there was a comment in there earlier asking I think it was from Richard saying, if you have met, or if the THST Trust have met with the board recently. Is that something you're able to comment on, just on this particular topic?
So in terms of the ticketing, we had a ticketing meeting a couple of months ago and discussed all of this. And in that, we lobbied for a freeze in the season ticket pricing, and we really, really pushed hard for that. And it's great that that's happened. And I think it's kind of been overshadowed by the deadline, unfortunately. And if you look across other Premier League clubs, as you mentioned, Arsenal, one of them, but a few actually have increased their prices. So the fact that ours are frozen, although albeit we've got one of the highest prices in Europe for season tickets, so I guess that kind of, take that as you will, but we have had them frozen. That's excellent. In that as well, like in our discussions, we lobbied for the deadline for season ticket renewal to be after the close of the season, as we always have, and it's been. But in that discussion, there wasn't any sort of mention of it being moved forward. So we were only told literally like within 24 hours of when it was announced publicly. We didn't know until then as well. And we knew there was going to be backlash on it. We said that to them. They said there wouldn't be, which is why we've been kind of caveating and getting people to email in if they're annoyed at it, because it really helps the cause, to be honest. In terms of the club reasons, I think Jace has been speaking to them clearly, because he came up with a bunch of them already. So they've always wanted to bring it forward. They've always wanted to align it with the month end. They said that they have more inventory, so in terms of season tickets to deal with, so they wanted an earlier deadline so that they could deal with either selling tickets on the waiting list if people hadn't renewed, or seat moved, because of the fact that the season is starting earlier next season. Our pushbacks to that are everything is now automated, it's digital. Sending out people's season tickets like on a card anymore, it's all digital, so it's really easy to do. And even seat moves now, they're not like going through and manually moving people, they're giving people a window to log in and move to wherever's available. So again, that's less work for them to do, so I can't see it taking that long to do. And as for selling season tickets on, well, if this product is so great, then why would they need to sell that many season tickets? Surely everyone's going to be renewing, right? So why would they need to do that? it doesn't make any sense. We obviously empathise with people, you know, who are annoyed by the season ticket deadline, because football's not in isolation. There's other stuff going on. The pandemic really hit people financially. People haven't been able to shift their tickets, season ticket holders. I don't know about you guys, but anything that I've put up on the exchange or anything hasn't really sold. So people are out of pocket, because usually they're able to shift a couple of games here and there. They haven't been able to do that. And then, as we know, cost of living is now going up. So fuel, food, national insurance, gas, electricity, travel, all of which
energy bills,
all of that's going to actually contribute to even a match day. If you think about pricing, the food pricing at the match, the travel to the match, fuel, you know, like if you're driving to the game, so all of that's going up. So actually your day out to the game is going to increase as well. And I also think as well, we've shown them a lot of faith, the club. Like we gave them 20% of our season ticket money in a season where we knew we weren't going to go into the stadium, and they literally held that as essentially a loan, right? And we gave that in good faith to them. So I think that it's just a really poor decision, and they haven't really read the room about it. And I really encourage everybody that's listening to email in to supporters services at tottenhamhotspur.com. Please do that. Tell them your grievances. You're going to get a token response that they're basically sending to everyone, but at least it generates more volume into the club. And we're going to lobby them again. We're going to send them another letter, kind of putting everything in context on a page, and hopefully, you know, we never know that they can move it. But it's just ridiculous. I don't know. I think Vass probably thinks the same, but let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming over to you. I mean, again, it's the hard thing is it's difficult to compare. I mean, this deadline with recent years, because of course, listen, the last 2 years obviously we've been obviously with COVID and that obviously pandemic, so that has obviously affected that renewal window and when that's open. So, for example, I think last year it was mid-April. It then closed 3rd of June, from what I can understand at the time. I think if you want to go back to a better comparison, I think Ali Gold said this obviously on his Twitter feed. And I think it was 2019 when the renewals opened on April the 29th, and the deadline was May the 16th. So it was a longer window this time. But I must also caveat that and say I think 2018 is a difficult one to compare because, again, it was planned for the new stadium switchover. So again, that had lots of different phases, we know, and it got delayed. And I think 2015, you might know this, Anth, I know you might not have been on the board at the time, but I think THST asked for that to be delayed by a couple of weeks at the time, back in 2015. So, yeah, I mean, that's overall. Have they read the room on this?
No, they haven't read the room, and they have an awful habit of not reading the room, which it doesn't reflect well on the club when they don't read the room. You know, it must be the only industry where customers are asked to part with their money without really knowing what they're buying. Now, I hear what Jay said earlier, in as far as we know we're buying 19 Premier League games, granted, but with a season ticket come other intangibles such as ticket priority, right? So ticket priority for what? Champions League, Europa Conference, nothing, you know? And you want to buy your ticket for those 19 Premier League games, but at the very least, you want to know who your manager's going to be and what your squad's going to look like. Now, I'm not saying that we need to wait until the end of the transfer window to make that decision, but certainly asking for the money, you know, when there's 4 or 5 games still to go in the Premier League season, I think that's cheeky beyond belief. It's not on. And yeah, I took Anthoulla's advice and I did drop supporter services an email. And I got some response back about how they've got to deal with like seat relocations and all this nonsense. And quite frankly, that's not the fans' fault. You know, be better at it, do it quicker if that's what you want the money up front early for. No, it's a bad move by the club. You know, they have some easy wins from time to time, and this could have been one of them, and they've failed, really.
You made a good point there, actually, about the cup games, because like you said, priority, but also there's an option to go to a gold season ticket, whereby you kind of commit basically to all the home cup games. So money just gets taken out of your account when you do that, and you get, I think, extra loyalty points when you renew. So if people want to do that, feel free. But you're kind of already committing when you renew as a gold season ticket holder to cup games that you don't know what cups you're in. So
and I think I mentioned also off air before we started, I think if they want the money early, fine, but then maybe offer a cooling off period, till the end of the season, so that because it's an expensive business. I mean, I live, I'm a Londoner, but I've been living in the Midlands for a long while.
Yeah.
And getting to a game now, when you factor in journey times, travel costs, it's a whole day out, going just one ticket. I mean, the game might be 50, 60 quid a ticket, but then you add petrol, parking, food, drink, blah, blah, blah.
You're doing over 100. You're doing over 100.
It's the best part of 150 quid just for one game,
Yeah.
And there's three of us going down. It's a lot of money. I mean, my two sons they're kind of in that thing now where they're debating whether to renew, and we waited such a long time to get these tickets. And we relocated during COVID to the area that we finally wanted, and now you're being faced with, do I renew or not? It's crazy.
Can I ask you, Jason? I mean, go on,
I think the two things of that, Vass, is why I think people are starting to say, do I renew, is that they can see how easy it is to get a ticket now to any game.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So there's that point. And then the second point that I think the club have got to kind of acknowledge, whilst it may not be their fault, but the amount of fixtures that are now moved around, and we have a fixture that this will be a 2 o'clock kickoff, but if Liverpool do this and Aston Villa do that, and then we will move this one to 4:30 the day before, and yourself and like I say, my mate Gary that flies down from Edinburgh for games, and I know Bo who flies over from Belfast. When you're trying to get cheap travel tickets and you're saying, right, 8 weeks in advance, right, I need to fly down it's going to be Sunday at 2 o'clock, so I need the Sunday morning flight. Suddenly that becomes a Monday game, but you've paid for the flight by then.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you think, now I've got a 35, 40 quid. And okay, 35 quid's on its own isn't a lot of money, but the amount of games that it happens to that are moved around. I mean, that Everton game was moved, wasn't it? At relatively short notice. Yeah. And, how Everton fans can travel down on a Monday night for a game. And we have this, football's nothing without fans, but the cost of rescheduling games. Yeah. And we haven't had a 3 o'clock on a Saturday for 3 years.
Is that what it is? Is it really
home?
That?
It's 3 years. I think the last Saturday we had a 3 o'clock was Huddersfield at Wembley, wasn't it? I think that might be the last one.
Can't think of one before. Yeah,
Huddersfield at Wembley.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if we have one. Let us know in the comments if there has been one before that.
There has to be an acknowledgement or the recognition of just how much financial problems that these moving of fixtures can. And as you say, by the time you then put in fuel prices and electricity prices and energy prices and the basic cost of living, you're asking to commit a much bigger sum of money than it, as a percentage of your income, disposable income.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to be reassessing whether or not a season ticket is worth it, because quite frankly, unless you go to away games, you probably are better off not having one, because it's so easy to get tickets now on the exchange. There's not really that much demand anymore. Season tickets holders aren't able to shift their tickets. So, it never, and now obviously they've moved back to the fact ticket exchange is only going to open if there's a sellout, which means that some of the games ticket exchange hasn't even opened for. So season ticket holders haven't even had the opportunity to pass on their tickets. So I think actually people are going to be having a lot of conversations about whether or not it's worth it, especially given the current climate with finances and cost of living. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But we always say this, and actually quite a lot of people renew. But we'll see. I think
you said, Anth, can you say that figure that you said off air?
So I was saying offline earlier that actually around 80% of people renew early or in the window. So actually extending it by an extra sort of pay packet month, really, they're going to already have 80% of their revenue in the bank. Why not extend it just to have the 20% who are struggling have that extra pay packet and then be able to pay for their season ticket? It's not really going to it's not really that much to the club, really. I don't know why. I mean, they've given their reasons. I think we can counteract them.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a really poor decision, in my opinion. And personally, I'm not advocating it, but my personal thing, I'm not renewing until the last minute. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, same.
I'm holding back my money. That's not me like saying to everyone else to do it, but that's what I'm doing.
Finally, Anne, can I ask you two things? Number one, do you think the club will do a U-turn based on?
I don't know. At the moment, they're very set on not.
Okay.
But we are in the process of sort of writing a response, and the more people that email in, the better. So we really do encourage it, because we represent the fans and importantly our members, right? So the more backing we have, the more weight our arguments carry. We can't just stand alone. It doesn't work that way. And then people sort of shouting at us about it, they're shouting at the wrong people. They should be shouting at the club, and the club probably love the fact that they shout at us. It takes the heat off them. So I really encourage people to write in, and it does carry weight. It may change the decision, it may not, we'll see, but I'm really hopeful that it does.
Yeah. And finally, I think my last question to you is, obviously there's been a lot of talk around the fan-led review. I mean, out of interest, is it for decisions like this why it is imperative to have that fan voice on there? Because like you said, in terms of reading the room, if there is that fan that can ultimately just say to the club, look, guys, I think this isn't quite the right time. Do you see where I'm coming from? Is that why it's even more imperative to kind of get this fan?
They don't listen. Right. But yeah, exactly. It carries more weight. It carries more weight, and it would be ideal to have someone on there. I think we've got a team of people that are doing it. If you want to know more about the fan review, email in, and Martin and Michael and things they can email you back on it, because not my area. I know nothing about that kind of legislation, unfortunately. Don't ask me.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we've challenged you enough on this, so that's absolutely fine. Listen, guys, again, Chris Cowling, obviously one of our own there in the comments. Chris saying last Saturday kickoff, 1st of Jan 2022, Watford away. There you go. So yeah, I mean, again, Chris, I think Chris will know better than us all. The last home fixture, interestingly, maybe it was that Huddersfield game, Jace. When you think back, just all those years ago, obviously Chris
struggling to think of another 3 o'clock on a Saturday, certainly at home since Huddersfield at Wembley.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys, what we will do to put you out your misery, we will go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. Take you into this break, you're going to hear from the United District podcast, who are giving us a preview ahead of the game against Manchester United, and then we'll be looking to preview that one right this second. So, guys, a massive game to come this weekend. I think it's fair to say that this will definitely test the credentials of Spurs as to where we are currently at in any potential race for the top four. I think based on Spurs' erratic nature, I know lots of different shows are doing a top four battle. I don't want to put the knockers on it with Tottenham, so I don't think it's probably applicable to do that until we're in some kind of form that gives us the right to say that we're top four contenders, although we are still up there. Now, United at the moment going into this game, of course, obviously they come off the back of a real thumping by Man City last weekend, a 4-1 win. And that's really, I think, brought United crashing back down to earth. Before that, I think it was just the one defeat for Ralph Rangnick in charge of United in the Premier League. So they weren't on a terrible run, to be fair to them. Going into this in terms of team news, United could be again without Cristiano Ronaldo, Edinson Cavani. We know Ronaldo hasn't yet trained this week, and Cavani has got a troublesome groin injury. And before we touch upon more in terms of the injuries, Jace, this is a game, isn't it, that's going to really test maybe where we're at. But should it be a case of no fear based on what we've seen from United so far this season?
We certainly shouldn't fear it. I know people say our record at Old Trafford isn't great, but in the last 10 years, we've had 4 wins up there. Is it 4 wins, 5 wins, something like that?
Yeah.
Manchester United haven't looked great. Even some of the games they have won, they've struggled to win. We've seen lots of teams go there and get a result. There's no reason why Tottenham can't. And you do feel that Manchester United's, the way they play, will suit Tottenham going to get a result far more than other teams. And it might just come down to, is it the Son and Kane show, or is it Ronaldo and Bruno show? And it might be a bit of individual brilliance at one end of the pitch or the other end of the pitch that decides it. But I think we've got I mean, it was. I think who was the manager that said Manchester United aren't great at running backwards? Was it Hasenhüttl who alluded to that? I think he said, they're not great when they try and run the other way, and we all know that's the perfect way for Tottenham this Tottenham side to look at the moment. So go there with confidence. We've just won at Manchester City for God's sake. I mean, you shouldn't have any fears about going to Old Trafford. There's no reason why we can't go there and get a result. But you know, it's the same old things, isn't it? You've still got to make sure you don't do the brain fart moments, and you mark people properly at corners, and you do all those basics. No silly back passes, no silly penalties, no Hugo not throwing one in, and all those things that so often we shoot ourselves in the foot with. But if we can go there and use our minds properly and concentrate properly, then there's a great chance for us to go there and get a result.
Yeah, I mean, coming over to you, listen, it's usually United a real unhappy hunting ground for us. But I think, as Jason said there, over the past 5-6 years, we've not had some bad results up there. So, I mean, do you think it's a game which really does test Spurs' credentials, whether Conte, again, has that stomach and belief that, this squad can be capable of getting a result there? Because, I mean, you've obviously, as you discussed at the top of the show, there's been a real change in tactics from Conte in terms of, going the other way now, saying that, we have to take responsibility. This has to now be the belief that we can finish in the top four. It's going to be games like this that we have to win to close that gap to United and we get close to that top four.
Yeah, I'm quite. To be honest, I agree with Jace. I think we can go to Old Trafford and win. We've done it before. We haven't got a bad record there in the as Jay said, the last 10 years. We've not been bad anymore. We've kind of broken that. It's the Chelsea away and the Arsenal away and that we've struggled with. So I'm not too worried about going to Old Trafford, and I think we can give them a good go at. And the way they play, exactly like Jay said, that it's better for us when teams kind of sit back and don't come at us. That's when we struggle. I think the openness of the game, I think is better. It suits us better, and especially if we stick to the 11 that we've got now, I think they're looking much better in terms of form. So yeah, I think we can definitely win there, and it would be good to close the gap. The cynic in me is like, we'll just do a Spurs and not win, and then give the fourth place to Arsenal. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
don't pretend that you're not also thinking that.
No, it's do you know what's funny? Obviously, they're obviously Sky are keeping back that fixture against Arsenal where they want to drop that in
of course,
at the right moment, and I think obviously that they'll be concerned that that if that gap does get too big, is it purposely putting that fixture in too late? I don't know. I mean, Vass, coming over to you from a Spurs perspective, we heard Antonio Conte speak today. He confirmed that Ryan Sessegnon is now out after the international break at the end of this month. Again, Oliver Skipp, he's unsure when he'll be back. So, I mean, it seems that Spurs are going to be again with the same squad really that we've had. I mean, I think the benefit really that we've seen with Spurs is that when they have had, I think, 5 to 6, 7 days to prepare for a game under Conte, they more than likely go and win it. So there's me absolutely jinxing it now. What's your thoughts going into it, Vass? Are you confident?
Well, you can never be confident being a Spurs fan, can you? I mean, I'm quietly optimistic. Man United were really bad last week against Man City, and they do have some issues. So it's also a question of which Man United are going to turn up. Is it somebody who's going to show a reaction following last week? So that will be interesting to see. I think Man United have also got a Champions League game next week that they got to think about too. So I don't know how seriously they're taking that competition right now, or any competition.
Good point.
Yeah. So that might play into our hands a little bit. We've just got to go there with the right attitude, haven't we? And just to follow on what you said about injuries, I mean, poor old Ryan Sessegnon can't seem to catch a break at the moment. Every time he has a bit of a run. And it seems to be a recurring injury, something that he's had before. We have missed Skipp for sure. However, with Bentancur coming back, Højbjerg looks better alongside him. I thought Højbjerg had a decent game against Everton. Now, okay, Everton were poor.
Yeah.
We've got to caveat it, I suppose. But we're starting to find a little bit of rhythm. So yeah, if we can build on what we've done against Everton and against Leeds before that, then who knows? We've got to go there with the right attitude, and we've got to play off the front foot from the beginning. None of this sort of going there waiting for things to happen like we did at Middlesbrough and possibly a little bit at Burnley as well, because then we just fall flat and the game passes us by and it's too late to do anything about it. So we've got to go there and kick off in the right way.
Yeah, I do love Keith's comment on the screen there. Free kits for sale in the United Club shop, home, away, and the referee kit. I mean, I say it's fair to say that United has not always been a happy hunting ground for us in terms of referees. I must say, before I come back round to Anth, Chris, one of our own, Chris Cannon, of course, just a reminder, he said the last Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff was the 1st of Jan 2022. That was Watford away. I know he said it earlier. I think Chris came back with a later one. He said last home game for Spurs, 3 p.m. on a Saturday, 7th of December 2019, Burnley 5-0 under Jose.
That's the one where Sonny scored the
goal right there.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? Yeah. That was a great day. Was in attendance for that. Loved it. Right, I mean, Rafael Varane, we know, is back in training, though, after recovering from COVID. Luke Shaw's availability is still up in the air for this one, as Alex Telles prepares to continue at left back. I mean, Anth, at the moment, team-wise, it feels like it picks itself, which is slightly concerning because the last time we did pick an unchanged team, of course, was up at Middlesbrough, which didn't work out on the night. But listen, Bentancur is back for Spurs. Kulusevski's in good form. Would you be looking to make any changes from that side that played Everton on Monday night?
No, I think we look so much better at the back as well with Dyer and Romero back in there, because we were looking very shaky when we didn't have Dyer and Romero when it was out injured. So I'm really happy they're back and we're looking way more solid at the back there. I personally wouldn't change it. I don't know what the others think.
Reguilón will be coming in for Sessegnon.
Well,
that'll be the only change. Yeah.
Apart from that, Vass, you'd be keeping it exactly the same, would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Matt Doherty at the moment, to be fair, listen, it's always great when players prove you wrong, and he's on a really good run of form, and by God, isn't it great to see? Because you've got to say, in terms of end product, it's a lot more consistent for the moment than what it has been from Emerson Royale. So I think, listen, if Matt can continue that form, that's all good. I mean, just a word on Sessegnon, Jace, it's a shame because you do feel with him that he's always leaving something slightly back in reserve. There's almost that hesitancy to push forward. I just wonder, Jace, whether that is because of the nature of the amount of injuries that he has picked up by playing, as Darren says, there's so much when he was younger.
Possibly. I mean, he did so well for the first goal, didn't he? Because I thought Davis actually overhit the pass for the first goal the other night, and the fact that he got there and actually whipped in a really good ball on the stretch. But you're right. As soon as he gets a couple of games under his belt, something goes wrong. We had the sending off, didn't he, in Europe, straight as Conte came in this year and things like that. But then, maybe just him being picked for 4 or 5 games has given Reguilón that little bit of a kick. And, what a great start he made Thursday night or Monday night, didn't he? Coming on and scoring in 40 seconds. So perhaps you'll have given him the punch that maybe he needed. But, Doherty's form has been... Doherty the other night was ridiculous. A couple of the balls were real top-class balls. And maybe that's just a real confidence thing. He's getting more... The club are getting more confident. It was Tottenham tweet now, a wallpaper picture about him and thinking, you couldn't have done that because they know he'd have got ripped. And even his management company or him put on a post on Twitter the other day, and I thought he's getting brave now, poor old Matt. But no, I mean it's great if players like that can contribute. That was all that we've asked for these players. We don't ask him to be the greatest right wing back in the world, but to be a lot better than he is and make a contribution when we need it. So fair play to him at the moment.
And you can't forget. Go for it, Vass.
Sorry, mate. I jumped in there.
No, please go for it.
I've given him a lot of stick. I've got to be honest. Especially,
I think we all have, Vass, to be fair. Yeah.
But he's deserved it, hasn't he, Vass? He's deserved the stick.
Yeah, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been great, has he? And I've slated him on our podcast at Tottenham. And but I saw glimpses. We saw the glimpses at the Leicester away game.
Yes,
he came on and he did something different. And I know we've grumbled about Emerson, but I feel for him as well because he's not really a right wing back. He's more of your traditional right back, that guy. But nevertheless, Doherty has been playing well lately, and as Jace quite rightly said, a couple of those passes that he played. I mean, he played he got both assists for Harry's goal, didn't he? Harry's
Yeah,
goal
he did.
against
Yeah.
Everton, and he had another pass that he played Sonny through, and Sonny didn't capitalise on it. So, and he had a shot that the goalkeeper saved. So, yeah, he's the master of chaos at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. I do love the fact that I don't know if you've seen it, the clip of Doherty with Ness and Dormer in the background, just superb. Only just obviously shoots to Maradona with obviously Doherty's face on it. Just a wonderful world of Twitter. There is some wonderful things on there that you do see. Right, guys, we're going to close it. We're going to go for predictions. Let's go first to. We'll leave Jace to last. He's back on, obviously, of course, to review this at the weekend, unfortunately for Jace. Depending on how it goes, of course, it could be a wonderful result for him, Jace, when he comes back on Saturday evening. And what are you going to go for?
I'm going to pluck. Oh, I'll go on then. Sorry.
Sorry.
You cut for a bit there. I thought you was coming to me. Go on then. That's all right.
I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
2-1 win. Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. Vass, what are you going to go for?
Oh, well, that's what I was going to say as well, actually. But
would you really?
As Anthoulla has said, I'm going to go for a 3-1 then.
3-1. Got the confidence. The most bipolar side.
I hate doing predictions. I know you get me to do this every time I come on your podcast, mate.
I hate predictions.
It's not to bring the class down, Vass, of Dr. Tottenham, I promise you. We're definitely not doing that purposely. Jason, what are you going to go for?
I'll go for 2-1 as well.
Yeah,
I think we've got a great chance. I think we've got a really good chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that United, by the nature of that defeat, that would have really hurt them. And I think, again, hopefully, again, putting Ronaldo, I think it is important that he does miss this game. He's got a wonderful record against Spurs. Ronaldo, generally, of course. We can't forget, obviously, his goal did contribute to Nuno going. So depending on how you feel about that, obviously, we might have been in favour of that goal going in, obviously, back at the time. Was it October now? October, November. But there you go. All positive predictions from the panel. Finally, of course, Jace is back with me on Saturday night for a Saturday night Last Word on Spurs special. To Joey on the screen there. Joey, listen, great to hear that we helped you during lockdown. I'm not sure if Spurs did generally, but I'm glad we did because I think lockdown under Mourinho wasn't that exciting, was it? But Jace, where can the viewers find you?
Test match special usually, mate. I'll be on the test match calls. Test match, and it's the US and the Players' Championship in Sawgrass at the moment. So anywhere like that, they can find me, mate.
Bowling about, or also you can find Jason at his tag out on there.
5 wickets today. That's all we've taken. 5 wickets. Where's Jimmy and Broad?
This is why Spurs is your other love, right? This is why Spurs is your second love for that reason. Talking about two teams that just frustrate the life out of you. You can find James over at THFC76. Too humble to put it in there, so I'll say it for him. We've had two, of course, great guests also returning to Last Word Spurs. Always lovely to have them on. And where can we find your dulcet tones, or where can we find all the great work you do?
So I'm at, mine's easy. It's at Anthoulla1. It's very easy.
Brilliant. And also, I think it's worth saying again, if supporters do want to get in touch with regards to the ticketing situation at deadline, just want to remind our viewers and listeners where they can find the information or where they can get in touch.
With the Supporters Trust? Or, or the club, sorry. So the club is supporters services at tottenhamhotspur.com is their email address to give them your grievances. And us, you can find us at THST Official. Is our @ on Twitter, and you can find our email is info@thhstofficial.com if you need to email us.
And lovely to have you back as always. It's never easy. Every time you come on, there's always some form of a challenge for Spurs, and bless you, always there to meet the demands. So thank you so much as always. And always great to have this man on, always level-headed whenever there's a crisis. Not really a crisis yet at Tottenham, but it's all settled down now, Vass. As always, you come back on, it's all settled down again. So, Vass, lovely to have you on. Where can we find the Dr. Tottenham podcast? Come on, where can we find it, Vass?
Yeah, Dr. Tottenham podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on iTunes and Spotify, and wherever you get a podcast. Basically, we are there. So come and join us. We've got a good team, a couple of very knowledgeable Americans. We've got Dan from Yidvids, he's with us, and myself. Yeah, and occasionally have a guest. So yeah, happy for anyone to jump on and give us a listen or a watch.
It is my guilty Monday morning listen to pleasure. It's always brilliant. So I say, please go and check it out. Great show as always. So from Amph, from Vass, from Jason, who's back with me, of course, for Saturday night, guys. We will see you very, very soon, and let's hope we're talking about a Tottenham Hotspur win on Saturday night. Thank you as always. Keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.